everything where it needs to be before we start the committee. Thank you for being here today. As before in previous committees, we're going to move through some PCSs, possible some amendments. We're going to navigate through as many bills as possible to get them ready for the floor. And so, committee members, I would be prepared for an afternoon rules meeting as well. And hopefully we'll have all that handled by today and we won't have any meetings tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and get started. I want to start with Senate Bill 391. Senate Bill 391. Senator Lazar, I apologize. We do not have that bill yet. It's on my list. We're waiting for that bill to get here. So we're going to start with Senate Bill 177. Representative Hall, you recognize to present the bill from your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a very lengthy discussion about this bill and appropriations last night. This is basically just keeping the budget negotiations going as we go into the summer, and this funds some critical things as we move along with those negotiations with the Senate. There's nothing in here that was not in the House budget, and I would appreciate your support.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Miller moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 177. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. Ayes do have it. And Senate Bill 177 is passed committee. Thank you, Representative Hall. I want to move to Senate Bill 416. Who's carrying Senate Bill 416? Representative Schitzel, you're ready. You're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to members of the committee for your consideration. Last time I was here before the chair, I was accused of being paid by the hour, so I will keep this brief. This is a bill that bolsters First Amendment protections to speech and association. It improves some privacy protections, creates some clarity for the state. Passed unanimously out of J2 yesterday, and I would appreciate your support.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Price, you're recognized.
Just for a question.
You're recognized for a question.
Yes, this is in section, near the end, the severability in section 2. Can you tell me why the IOLTA funds are, there's restriction on them for a year?
The IOLTA language was added yesterday in an amendment in J2, and I believe it was added to multiple bills. Beyond that, I don't understand the IOLTA provision. The rest of the bill was about privacy. So,
any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Miller moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 416. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being here, the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. And Senate Bill 416 is passed the committee. Thank you, sir. Next, we want to move back. Well, we do have Senate Bill 319, so we're going to move to 391. Senator Lazar, we do have the bill now. And welcome to the Rules Committee, and you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 391 is our annual DOT agency bill. It has been worked on with the Secretary, the Commissioner of DMV, Senate, and House. There are 23.5 provisions. I'll be glad to go through them in detail, or I'll be glad to answer any questions, but it's been through all the committees. All partners have agreed to the language that's before you, and I'll be glad to, obviously still work in process on some of the issues, but this is a bill that needs to get to the finish line so we can have a lot of great things, get it put into place immediately.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Pickett moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 391. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. Senate Bill 391 has passed the committee.
Thank you.
Senator Lazar. Next, we want to move to Senate Bill 488. Who's carrying Senate Bill 488?
I do.
Representative Stevens, you're recognized to present the bill from your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, you've seen this bill before. It actually is nothing that the Senate sent over here. It is House Bill 648. It clarifies a confusion between the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court that if a child has been placed in foster care for an extended period of time, we get to the point of permanency, then the court doesn't automatically prefer a relative who hasn't been involved at this point, but does a best interest test between the relative and the foster parents about meaningful contact.
Representative Dahl, you're recognized.
A question, please, sir.
You're recognized for a question.
Representative Stevens, does this have an IOLTA provision that was added to it?
It does.
Can you explain that provision, please, ma'am?
I cannot.
Sorry, follow up.
I'm sorry. And I cannot. I was directed to add that to this bill as well.
All right, Representative Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think several of us would appreciate knowing what that is, since a couple of people have said that they are not able to explain it to us.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I will say that this is consistent with something that had been put in the budget. They were removing all IOLTA funds. Now they've simply put a stay on it, and I think this was more of a leadership position than an individual.
Representative Cunningham, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I still don't know what that is, and I would like to know what the acronym stands for.
Oh, Mr. Chair,
Representative Stevens.
that IOLTA is the interest on lawyer trust accounts. When attorneys receive money for like a loan closing or whatever, for whatever period of time, they're holding it in a bank account, it earns interest. The attorneys don't get to keep the interest. It has to be forfeited to the state bar.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Dahl.
Is there anybody who can explain the provision? Staff or somebody that might be able to help us understand that provision?
I do see a hand up. I see actually, Representative, I see multiple hands up, so we'll get you a direct answer here.
Morgan Weiss, Fiscal Research Division. So this provision, IOLTA, which is an entity within the State Bar, they issue grants on an annual basis, a calendar basis, based off of that interest that is accruing in those accounts. And so what this provision does is it puts a pause on their ability to award grants for calendar year 2026. So they've already issued the grants for 2025. Those funds are not affected by this provision, but typically they would undergo a new annual grant cycle in the fall for next calendar year, and that would be paused until July 31st of next year.
Are there any further discussion or debate or any more questions? Thank you very much. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none. Representative Cawthon moves for a favor report to Senate Bill 488. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and Senate Bill 488 has passed the committee. Next, we want to move to House Bill 369. That's a tall order, Representative Dahl. Representative Loftus, welcome to the Rules Committee. You're recognized to present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This is better known as a parking lot bill. It has two sections. One section allows property owners and developers to have more authority over their land that they own, and it removes parking mandates. Property owners' creativity will not be confined to arbitrary parking minimums, and this change could reduce housing costs, control sprawl, reduce developmental pressure on rural and agricultural communities, preserve community identity, and allow for better stewardship of the state's natural resources. Section 2 is a flood reduction toolkit that they can choose, communities can choose if they wish to use it. This is a win for community and those that live downstream and experience floodings from these parking lots. So together, this bill will address unneeded parking lots that also addresses runoff from those parking lots. I'll stand for questions concerning what I briefed.
Representative Pearl, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really more of a comment than a question. I read your bill and I appreciate it. Just a couple of concerns with the requirement for off-street parking lot to meet a minimum number, well, the removal of the requirement for off-street parking to meet a minimum number of parking spaces. My concern isn't for the Walmarts or any of the big commercial sites. My concern is in the high-density areas where somebody might develop a 100-room apartment complex and only provide parking for 50 and force that parking out on the street. And then that becomes a public safety issue when the fire truck or the ambulance can't get through, or kids are playing and dart out between cars. And it's just, but I had a good discussion with Representative Brody today, and I think they're going to, you guys are going to continue to look to try to address these concerns as the bill moves forward and goes over to our colleagues in the other chamber. So I appreciate it. I have a little bit of concern, too, about taking that responsibility away from a local government, being a former county commissioner. But my big concern is the public safety side of that. But thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Price, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. And just a comment also, as you continue to work on this, I am concerned about some of our commercial developments. I mean, I agree with in modifying the parking requirements, but I know when we had a recent development of a large building, the merchants were very concerned that we were taking away their parking. So I would just try to keep that in mind, just to have some consideration for merchants that want people to be able to park to get into their stores and spend money.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or debate? I've got Representative Dahl ready to make a motion. Seeing none, Representative Dahl moves for favorable report to House Bill 369. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 369 has passed the committee. Next, we want to move to House Bill 517. Representative Ryan, welcome to the Rules Committee. Glad to have you here today. You're recognized to present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, this comes at the request of the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits. You've probably seen this before. It passed one vote shy of unanimous last session. It will modernize our North Carolina nonprofit laws and help our charitable and religious organizations by filling in the gaps in those nonprofit laws. I would appreciate your continued support.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Cawthon moves for a favorable report to House Bill 348. All in favor will say aye. Excuse me, scratch that. I do apologize. Representative Cawthon moves for a favorable report to House Bill 517. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 517 is passed committee. Thank you very much. Next, we want to move to House Bill 697. Who's carrying House Bill 697? Glad to have you here, Representative Campbell. You recognize the present bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill simply sets up a regulatory board and credentialing process for genetic counselors, defining scope of practice and communications. There's no known opposition. There's no scope of practice concerns. My specialty in medicine probably uses genetic counselors more than anyone, and we have no problem with this bill. Appreciate your support.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Torber, you recognize.
Related but unrelated, can we turn the volume up a little bit? It seems like we have some Seinfeld low talkers today, and I hear the beginning of it, but it starts fading off in the distance at the end. Can we turn the volume up on the microphone?
I'm sorry about that, Representative Torber.
It's too easy.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Torber moves for a favorable report to House Bill 697. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 697 is passed committee. Thank you, Representative Campbell.
Thank you.
All right, next we want to move to House Bill 348. House Bill 348, Representative McNeely, welcome to the Rules Committee, sir. You're recognized to present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody hear me? Okay, we got the microphone fixed in. This is a simple bill. It has to do with farmland preservation and also helps the participants in the annexation sandbox play nice together, and I look for your full support on this.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Dixon moves for a favorable report to House Bill 348. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 348 is passed committee. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Let's see where we're going next. I'm going to move to House Bill 590. House Bill 590. Who's carrying House Bill 590? Representative White, you're recognized to present the bill from your seat, and I do understand we have an amendment.
Thank you. The amendment just adds 2 words, nursing on page 2, line 19, and nurse physician, physician assistants on line 12, page 12, line 1. Sorry, picked up the wrong paper. Is the amendment okay?
Yeah, any further discussion or debate on the amendment? Representative White is presenting an amendment to House Bill 590. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and the amendment is passed. Representative White, we're back on the bill. You're recognized to discuss the bill further if you'd like.
Thank you. This bill will assure that the person doing your x-ray or your radiation therapy is trained and licensed. And a new board, the Medical Imaging and Radiation Therapy Board, examiners will assure that those licenses are done and that people know how to do what they're doing, because some of you have told me, and this is one of the reasons I did this bill, some of you have come to me and told me that you were misdiagnosed and found out that the person who was doing your x-ray did not know what they were doing and were not trained in that, and others have been diagnosed with something not diagnosed because they had been given a non-professional licensed person to do the x-rays or the radiation therapy. So appreciate your support.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Gillespie moves for a favorable report to House Bill 590 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 590 has passed the committee. Next, we want to move to next, we're going to move to Senate Bill 101. Representative Shepherd, you're recognized to present the bill to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee. Some of you might recognize this bill. It's one that we've ran 3 times in the House, passed unanimous, and gone over to the Senate, and it's not moved, to my disappointment. It was the original living donor kidney transplant bill. It's now Senate Bill 101. It still offers protections for those that donate kidneys from being discriminated against by insurance companies and so forth, and they've added also something to protect savings accounts that are in accordance with the Internal Revenue Code when it comes to savings accounts for education and so forth. It also protects people that want to do bone marrow and so forth. I ask for your support. I will add to this, I received a kidney transplant in 2017. Prior to that, former Representative Steve Metcalf, about 40 years ago, received one, and he is still doing great with one kidney. So he's functioning well. Andy Munn, that worked for our staff here, he received one about a year ago. And also, Kevin Howe received a kidney transplant before me, and he was on my support committee. So anyway, there are people, thousands of people in this state that need bone marrow and kidney transplants, and I hope that move this bill along, and for finally it will come true to those that are in dire need here in our state of North Carolina. Appreciate your support.
Any further discussion or debate? I had Representative Ball, then Representative Dahl. Representative Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you give us a little more information about those things that were added, the tax advantage account, savings account, and so forth? I know
Well, it was added,
not in your original bill, I'm sure.
No, it wasn't in the original bill. It basically, all I know is that it protects those that have savings accounts for education and other purposes, and that are approved under the Internal Revenue Code. And basically it says that a debtor can't come in and acquire those funds and so on and so forth if they've been done according to the Internal Revenue Code. It protects those investments for children's education.
Representative Dahl, you're recognized. Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Shepherd, this is so popular, I have Representative Dixon, Representative Carney, and Representative Torbett all willing to make a motion on your behalf for a favorable report to Senate Bill 101. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, the ayes do have it, and Senate Bill 101 is passed to committee. Thank you, Representative Shepherd. Next, we want to move to House Bill 192. Representative Hall, you're recognized to present the bill from your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was heard last night in preparations as well. This is the House salary package that was in the House budget, and I would appreciate your support.
Is any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Dixon moves for a favorable report to House Bill 192. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and House Bill 192 has passed committee. Members, is there anybody here presenting Senate Bill 375? Oh, Representative Ross. Representative Ross, Senate Bill 375, you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I think they turned the volume up.
Representative Ross, would you hold for a second? Members, this is a PCS, the Senate Bill 375. Without objection, the PCS will be before us. Thank you, Representative Ross. You're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 375 began as a companion bill to a House bill that we had that passed unanimous in the House in reference to a situation took place in Alamance County where a student was seriously injured by a member of a coaching team at school. After learning of that incident from the parents, we began to check into it and found out that there were loopholes in our current statutes involving hazing, and this was a hazing incident. And so we created a bill that would add school personnel to the list of those responsible or to be held responsible if there's hazing. As I said, it passed the House unanimous, went over to the Senate. They had a very similar incident in the Senate, and it was expanded to include additional hazing incidents, and it creates two classifications. One, when committed by a student, it moves that from a Class 2 misdemeanor to a Class A misdemeanor. If the hazing incident creating serious injury to a student is committed by school personnel, it makes that a Class 1 felony. The only other part of the bill is a small piece that was added in by the Senate, or actually not the Senate, I don't think, but a third part added to the bill to require local boards of education to publish total compensation and position information for central office employees. So I ask for your support. There are students out there that are hoping, they're actually watching today to see if we can get this through. So I ask for your green vote. Thank you.
Representative Ball, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry to see this provision in this bill. I've spoken about it before. I feel compelled to do it again. We do not need to require our state our state offices for our schools to be publishing this information, especially in our rural counties, smaller counties, where it would be very easy. I know the name is redacted or not even included, but I think that we intend for this to be anonymous, and of course it's available otherwise, as I know we've been reminded, but I object to that being added, especially in those areas where it's easy to identify who the person is. So I hate, but I'm going to have to vote against this one for that reason.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Torby, you're recognized.
For a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Torby, if you'd like to make the motion, go ahead, sir.
Be happy to. I move for a favorable report, Senate Bill 375, Harrison's Law.
Representative Torbett moves for a favorable report to the post committee substitute to Senate Bill 375, unfavorable to the original bill. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Being chair, the ayes have it, ayes do have it, and Senate Bill 375 has passed the committee. Next, we're going to move to Senate Bill 706. Representative Penny, welcome to the Rules Committee, sir. You're recognized to present the bill. It is a PCS, so without objection, the PCS is before the committee. Representative Penny, you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The bill's entitled County Waste Management. For those who've been up here a while, you know it is the scrap tire bill. Representative John Sauls, I think, has ran this bill every session since 2016. Our colleagues in the Senate would not take it up. Guess what? They sent it back over here, voted on it 45 to nothing. So all of a sudden it's become a good bill. It's to reestablish the scrap tire disposal account. that was eliminated in 2013. Well, it was not eliminated, it was just redirecting the money into the general fund. But Senate Bill 706 would reestablish the account and modify the distribution of proceeds of the scrap tire disposal tax, allocate 30% to the account, eliminate any amount currently allocated from the tax to the general fund, provide that if any amount in the account exceeds $300,000 at the end of a fiscal year, the excess would be credited to the highway fund, not back into the general fund. The department would be able to use these funds, 75% of revenue grants units of local government to assist, and that's important because when I ran it in 21 along with Saul's, county commission
to get through, so have members start working their way back to their seats. Next, I want to move to House Bill 14. I believe Representative Kidwell, Representative Brody, y'all both be presenting House Bill 14. You're both recognized to present the bill to the committee. Oh, and before we get started, there is a PCS without objection. The PCS will be before the committee. Representative Kidwell, Representative Brody, you're recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 14, the first part of it is a gambling tax, a gambling law deduction. What this does is it allows a winner of, let's say it's a slot machine, to deduct or offset their losses against their gains. This is what the federal government currently allows and has always allowed. North Carolina did until about 2013. So this does not allow deductions for things like food and travel and motel, hotel. This is simply if you win money, you can offset the losses against what you won. The reason for this bill is I have seen many a person who has won, and one of them comes out of the area in Cherokee that lives in that neighborhood, and they win about $300,000 a year, whatever form of gambling it is, at the casinos. They go there as a hobby. The IRS allows them to take the losses, which are typically about the same. The IRS allows them to take those losses as an itemized deduction, and that's what this would do for North Carolina. So it would couple it to the Internal Revenue Code. Unfortunately, in North Carolina, if you win $300,000, but you put in $290,000 to win it, you get taxed on the full $300,000. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold that to be wholly unconstitutional. North Carolina's Constitution specifically states that all deductions shall be allowed so that only net income is taxed. The fiscal memo on this is equated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million. Regardless of what that is, ladies and gentlemen, it is the right thing to do for the people of North Carolina. We should never tax somebody on money they did not actually get. I'll allow Representative Perret to add anything she cares to.
Thank you, Representative Kidwell. Mr. Chair, I just walked in, so I'm not sure what you went over, but this is, a portion of this was my bill that I introduced. The reason I did this was just because it strikes me as incredibly unfair for people to engage in this activity, I think, and then not make any money, actual money, and pay tax on, and have to pay tax on money they never received and never got. So that's the purpose of this. I would say that the fact that the state does not conform to federal has created a lot of confusion. So most people assume that the state does conform to federal, and then they get hit with a surprise tax bill.
Representative Brody, any comments you want to? I saw you walking towards the mic. Any comments you want to make?
Just on the other part of the bill,
Yes,
if
sir.
you don't mind, I'll be real brief. This is for people who invest in gold and silver as an investment. What this bill will do is eliminate the tax if you sell the investment and make a gain on it. Well, it doesn't eliminate it. It becomes regular taxable income on that. The other thing is, the second part of it is it's real simple. It reaffirms Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, which allows the states to use gold and silver as money, but it says that it doesn't require any vendor to forcefully accept that as payment. Thank you.
Any further discussion or debate? Representative Dahl, you're recognized.
I just wondered, what is the way to keep up with how much you put in, the legal way to keep up with how much you put into the slot machine or whatever?
Okay. So Internal Revenue requires that you keep extemporaneous records. So you can actually keep a notebook if you choose to, but it would have to be self-evident that it's not a notebook you made up at the last minute. IRS is a little bit smarter than that, and I think our Department of Revenue would be as well. Most of your gambling establishments have, I don't know if it's a membership card, whatever. I don't go to casinos. I understand that they don't build those big buildings by losing money. But, basically they have these membership cards that you go in and you can use those at each table or machine, and it tracks your wins and losses at each of those places.
Representative Dahl, you're recognized for a question. Representative Ball, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question for Representative Perret. I know this is your original bill. how can someone who does not itemize deductions, and a lot of people who are not large income people are earning or making winnings and so forth, they get no benefit from this bill, basically? Is that accurate?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Representative Ball, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. This only applies to people who choose to itemize.
Follow up? Thank you. Well, that's my concern. A lot of people who do gamble and have winnings and losses, as you pointed out, Representative, they don't get any benefit from it. So I was wondering if I know it would be difficult because it's hard enough to keep up with what people win and lose and so forth, but is there anything that we could do to make sure those people also can take advantage of this provision?
Mr. Chairman?
You recognize? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that question. It's a very good question, well thought out. So there's many parts of the tax codes that people cannot use. It's basically, it comes up to, do you reach the IRS required number, if you will, to do that? So what the IRS and the state of North Carolina have both established is called a standard deduction that everybody gets. Things like gambling losses are factored into that when they come to that number of what you're going to be allowed to deduct without proving anything. What this says is if you go above the amount that's not required to be proved, then you have to prove it by itemizing your deductions.
Just one quick follow-up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know our standard deductions actually take that into consideration. Is there somewhere I might look to find that information in the tax code? I was not aware, and I've never been told that.
So I couldn't tell you where it would be in the tax code. It's an established practice that both the Internal Revenue Service and the state have used for years, is they come up with a number that is supposed to represent things that people would be able to otherwise itemize, but don't have to itemize in order to take that number. So it's a number that moves up typically each year, and it includes things like medical expenses and possibly home mortgage interest. And in fact, years ago, prior to 2018, about 40% of people that I saw in my practice would itemize. Because the standard deduction has been basically doubled at the federal level, we only see probably maybe 4 or 5% now that actually go above that new higher number. So they actually do get the benefit. It's included in the standard deduction. This just allows it for the people, like some of the ones that I've explained. Gentleman and his wife, they spend about $300,000 a year in gambling. They'll win about $300,000, maybe a little profit, a little loss. But in North Carolina, we've actually taxed them year after year on more than they actually netted out on that. They would be able to itemize that deduction.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kidwell, would this cover the North Carolina Education Lottery online digital games?
Mr. Chairman?
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Yes, this would encompass all gambling, including the sports betting, the casinos, any of the games that you play that are gambling. It will cover any taxable income that is taxable to the state of North Carolina. So if you were in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and you win gambling, you're a North Carolina resident, that income is going to be reflected on your North Carolina tax return. Ergo, the deduction would also be permitted in that case.
Thank you.
Any further discussion about Representative?
Mr. Chairman.
Hold just 1 second. Representative Pearl, you're recognized, and we'll go to Representative Torben. Representative Pearl.
Thank you. I have a question for Representative Kidwell. With your last statement, if it was one of the out-of-country online entities that do not report their what is the W2G or 1040G, if they do not report that to the state, there's no way to track those individuals, correct?
So yes, that would be correct, Representative Pirtle. The IRS does a fairly good job of tracking that type of information. A W2G is required in the United States. Federal requirement, we subscribe to that at the state of North Carolina. I've seen a lot of people who have tried to play that game, if you will. Not a good idea to try and trick the IRS, because when they catch you, they get kind of nasty about it. Now, you have to claim income worldwide. Revenue Code, and I will quote, all worldwide income subject to tax. So unless it's specifically excluded, you have to put it on the return. They would also be permitted their deductions as long as it was not an illegal activity.
Representative Torp, did you have a question?
Yes, sir, thank you. A question of the bill sponsors. If you could give us a little layman's walk through the garden of legal tender language down at the very bottom. It sounds to me like, can you explain that a little bit more in detail for me, please? It's the acceptance or actually the transference of legal tender, what is legal tender and what isn't legal tender.
Yes, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution declares that the federal government is in charge of all money, and to declare a legal tender and set the value thereof, it sets the value. In North Carolina, we are, by the same section, we are allowed to use gold and silver, but the federal government determines the value of that gold and silver. For example, a lot of gold and silver, even though it might have a 1 ounce $20 gold piece, the actual value is determined by what the federal government determines is the content of that, and then of course the market itself would determine the intrinsic or actual value of it. I hope that helps you.
Follow-up question, Mr. Chairman.
You recognize for a follow-up,
I
Representative
was
Torp.
looking under the Commerce Clause. It says no person is required to offer or accept any recognized legal tender as described in subsection A of this section for payment of debts, deposit, or other purpose.
Yep, that's correct, and I'll give you an example. The hotel I stayed in, I came in and handed my credit card, and of course the young guy didn't know much about it, and he kept on telling me, no, you can't, you got to have a $50 deposit. And I said, well, but I got cash. He said, we don't accept that. Now that's legal. Companies are saying, no, we don't accept cash. We will accept strictly credit card. That's legal, as well as if you would come in and want to buy something and give a silver dollar gold piece and it says $1 on it, anybody can say, okay, I'll give you change for $1, but they're not going to give you the $35 or $40.
That leads me to my concern is that are we downplaying or marginalizing what is currently legal tender by not allowing or not promoting the use of legal tender in retail establishments, for example?
Apparently, we are allowed to do use whatever kind of legal tender we want to use and what people will accept. It doesn't downgrade it any. The purpose of a lot of people who invest in gold is it's a hedge against inflation, and so that's why they do that. People do cryptocurrency because they're afraid of us devaluating our currency. So there's a number of reasons, but there's no legal reason to say that you have to accept what I offer you, even though it's legal. The tender itself is legal.
Thank you.
Representative Longest, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for a brief question. I understand with the rush of the last days of session that this, probably didn't get a hearing in the Finance Committee for that reason. However, when we are making large changes to taxes, it's customary that we receive some type of fiscal note. Representative Kidwell mentioned that there was a fiscal memo prepared, and I was just wondering if he would be willing to publish that to the body, or make it available individually, at least.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Longest, I thought that was on the bill site. I may be incorrect, but I can get that for you, but I promise you what it said was $20 million, because I've run this bill in the past myself as the primary, and oddly enough, at that time, prior to sports betting, it also said $20 million, and I found that curious. And I believe, Representative Perea, is that not on the site? The fiscal note? It is on there. Yeah. Should be on the site with the bill.
Representative Dixon, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this year over year? Can they go back in past years and bring losses from past years forward?
So the question there would be, if I'm correct, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. The question there, I think what you're asking is, would this generate a net operating loss? And the answer to that would be no.
Now, my question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. You recognize for a series of follow-ups.
My question is, can you go back and accumulate losses from past years, and if so, how far?
Okay, so, all right, yeah, so different question, actually, yes. So in this case, what you're talking about is, can I accumulate losses from the past when I win something? The answer is no. A cash basis taxpayer can only take the income and expenses that are related to the current year, unless it is a business type loss where we would generate an NOL.
Is there any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Purtle moves for a favorable report to the proposed committee substitute to House Bill 14, unfavorable to the original bill. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Opinion chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it, and House Bill 14 has passed committee. Thank you, members. Members, before we move into the last bill of the morning / early afternoon, the speaker has announced that session will be delayed till 2 p.m. So if you haven't seen that, I just want to let you know the session will be delayed until 2 p.m. And also, the chair, I want to take a little bit of time. I know I see a couple of young folks that have joined us today, and so glad to have you here. Glad you came up to see your government in action, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. Or sometimes you can take a really good nap in this committee as we roll along. But just thank y'all for being here and taking part in your civic duties. So glad to have you here. With that said, we're moving to the last bill, which will be House Bill 401, the Farm Act. Representative Dixon, you're recognized to present the bill from your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Senate Bill 401 is the House version of the annual Farm Act. If you will remember from your emails going back 3, even maybe 4 weeks ago, even though we didn't have the bill in our possession, we encouraged members to take a look as the bill was moving through the Senate to familiarize themselves with the various provisions that are in it. As usual, when it moved along, there becomes hot button issues in it. This bill just passed out of Ag and Environment unanimously on a bipartisan basis. What I said in that committee, I will say here. There's nothing in this bill that concerns raw milk, limiting liability of anything, nor herbicides or pesticides or digging a canal from Raleigh to Wilmington. I would appreciate your positive vote.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Representative Edens moves for a favorable report to Senate Bill 1. All in favor will say aye. All opposed say no. Opinion chair, the ayes have it. The ayes do have it, and Senate Bill 401 has passed the committee. Members, please stay tuned for a notice possibly later today, and with no more business for the committee, we're adjourned.